We have somebody who abused their position of public trust for private gain. That is the hallmark of public corruption.
Yeah, and she has maintained that she was not involved. She has basically maintained that this was nothing that had to do with her in the past, very publicly. But Thao has previously said this would have never happened to her if she was rich, if she went to an elite private school. But the feds are making it very clear that they do have enough evidence against her in this case.
I think the way you phrase that question is really important because what we hear outside of court often can be very different from and may not match the allegations here. What she's saying is she was unfairly targeted, that she did nothing wrong, that she was targeted for a variety of different reasons. We really need to listen to not what she says outside of court, but what her defense says. This case is now starting. The magistrate is going to read the charges, and the magistrate will read the maximum sentences provided. Now everything is going to, the clock is going to start for things inside the courtroom. And when it comes to the specifics of this indictment, what we know is that it's detailed, that it is an indictment, that there's a long road between an indictment and a conviction, but there are a lot that we know there are damning facts here. So all of which is to say, we have to listen to a legal defense, not a political defense.
Yeah, and Jessica said you just said this could take a long time. We've got a long road ahead. So really, truly, what happens next at this point?
Really, truly, what happens is that there's the arraignment in federal court. These are federal charges. It starts with a magistrate judge. There will be aggressive, something called motion practice, where, the attorneys will file motion. Obviously, her attorneys will try and get this indictment thrown out. I frankly don't see that happening. And then we will start the process of marching towards trial. A reminder for everybody that most cases, both criminal and civil, never go to trial. There is a settlement, but this isn't most cases. This is a high-profile public corruption case that you and I are talking about live on air. But when it comes to indictment to trial, oftentimes that can be years.
Well, we'll continue to follow the latest developments, and we'll bring you the latest on air on our website and streaming on the free CBS News app. Well, still ahead on CBS News Bay Area, firefighters gaining ground against the deadly Southern California wildfires. But the containment efforts may have caused a new threat emerging. Plus, as President-elect Trump takes office in just a few days, how California may be in for a fight over its coastline and offshore drilling. And would you fight to keep your favorite coffee shop open? We explore the grassroots effort to save the community's gathering spot.
It's a beautiful Friday forecast for us here in the Bay Area. A little bit cloudier compared to earlier this week and a little bit cooler too. We're sitting in the upper 50s today along the bay, and we'll be flirting back and forth with upper 50s and lower 60s as we head into this weekend and early next week. But as we head into our inland spots, we're not seeing too much of a change either. I mean, very similar conditions, a little bit cloudy at times, but not a drop of rain in sight. We're going to continue to see dry conditions throughout the next 7 days as the jet stream is well north of us. But on the bright side, we have beautiful weather heading into the weekend.
Well, in Monterey County, a fire at a battery storage plant is forcing some evacuations. The Moss Landing battery plant is one of the largest lithium battery storage facilities in the world. And because lithium battery fires are so hard to put out, officials are choosing to let the fire burn itself out. Now, evacuation orders are in place for about 1,500 people living near the plant, with plumes of smoke from the fire pouring into the sky. Health officials are advising people to shut their doors and windows and stay indoors. Highway 1 was briefly closed. Hundreds of firefighters and other emergency workers responded to the fire call yesterday afternoon and stayed through the night. Now, this is time-lapse video from one of the alert wildfire cams. The plant is a battery storage facility. It is operated by a company called Vistra Energy. It was not immediately clear what sparked the fire. Fire crews are still on site monitoring conditions on the ground and in the air using drones to see the extent of the damage. They tell us, luckily, winds have been fairly calm, allowing the smoke from the fire to go up and out of the area.
The number one priority is the protection of people's lives. The weather is cooperating, and it's been in our favor, and all I can say is thank God for that, because, you know, wind, as we know, what happened in Southern California does crazy things, and so we're not dealing with that, fortunately.
Well, the last time a fire occurred at the Moss Landing power plant was in 2022 at the Tesla power storage facility. Well, in Southern California, fire crews are taking advantage of a break in harsh weather to contain the deadly wildfires. The LA County Medical Examiner confirming now another 2 deaths in the fires, pushing the death toll now to 27. So more than 170,000 people remain under evacuation orders in the Los Angeles wildfires. While dangerous fire weather conditions have passed for now, officials still warn another round of strong winds could be on the way next week. There are now 5 fires burning across the region. The Palisades fire is 22% contained. The Eaton fire is 55% contained. And together they burned about 58 square miles. Now there's a risk of landslides caused in part by the water used to fight the flames. Rob Marciano has the latest from the Pacific Palisades.
As crews improve containment on the Palisades and Eaton fires, there's a new concern. The water used by firefighters may have led to scenes like this. A home in Pacific Palisades, lucky to survive the fire, then splitting completely in half.
The infrastructure under thousands of homes have been compromised.
The saturated grounds along hillsides have become unstable and threaten the ability for some residents to return.
These workers are digging down to get to the gas line. They need to shut it down, seal it off, so it's safe for residents to come back. And this has to happen in neighborhoods throughout the fire zone.
It hadn't really sunk in yet that our whole entire community would be wiped off the map.
Andrew Rowe lost his home in the fire. He and his dog Henry moved into this house 1 year ago and was finally wrapping up renovations when dark smoke began to engulf the entire neighborhood.
Well, there's only 2 way out of the Palisades, and it was a gridlock, and I thought I was going to die. So I'd actually called my parents in case I wasn't going to make it out.
And what did you say to them at that moment?
I just said, I love you, and if I don't make this out alive, I love you.
Rowe's been dealing with the shock and grief by writing down his thoughts right after evacuating in a journal.
And the first thing you say, number one, I am not a victim.
Yeah.
And you believe that. That's your mindset right now.
I mean, I've suffered loss, but having a victim mindset is another thing, and it's uprooted my life. I'm not going to wallow in self-pity when I've been blessed so much.
Wow. And many people here in the Bay Area continue to step up with donations and other support for Southern California. One bakery in San Francisco's Bernal Heights neighborhood hopes their sweet treats will help raise money to offer assistance to food and beverage workers affected by the wildfires.
It's going to restaurantscare.org. $50 from each cake. Each cake is $70 will go directly to them. This organization gives money directly to the workers for rent, food, anything that they need. They just basically go into that website, apply for that program, which we have done in the past when we needed help, and it's super easy. They're very kind and thoughtful, and it's a very easy, seamless process.
And CBS is partnering with the Red Cross to raise money for those impacted by the Southern California wildfires. You can go to redcross.org/CBS to donate. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS, or you can text Red Cross to 90999 to make a $10 donation. Well, the FBI has arrested a San Francisco man over his alleged role in the January 6th riot at the Capitol. Frank Molinari Georgie Jr. was arrested in the city on Wednesday. The FBI providing these photos here that they say show him at the Capitol. They've highlighted the man there in the black hooded sweatshirt and a red hat. He's accused of wrestling with Capitol police officers, grabbing an officer's head and neck and pulling them to the ground. He also allegedly hit an officer in the head. Molinari Georgie is now charged with felony assault, among other offenses. Well, 3 days from now, a major transition at the White House as Donald Trump will be sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. The inauguration will now take place indoors due to dangerously cold conditions in Washington, D.C. It's now scheduled to happen in the Capitol Rotunda. There is already tight security in Washington, D.C. Heavy-duty fences are up at the National Mall. And the U.S. Secret Service has been doing dry runs at its training facility, practicing worst-case scenarios that could happen during the inauguration parade. And in the air, the Energy Department is doing air surveys looking for any threats like dirty bombs. Security is top of mind. 25,000 law enforcement and military members will be on site. Well, once Trump takes office, he's expected to get right to work on his campaign promises, some of which could have big impacts right here in California. He promised to unleash American energy by maximizing U.S. oil and gas production. Ann Makovic takes a look at how this directive could set California up for a battle over offshore drilling.
Oil and gas drilling off the California coast,
not your beaches,
is a politically explosive issue marked with opposition.
What you've got to do is fight it every step of the way.
Leon Panetta represented California's Central Coast in Congress for 16 years and says the coastline is a national treasure that needs protection.
You don't have oil drilling in Yosemite. You don't have oil drilling in Yellowstone. And frankly, we shouldn't have oil drilling off the California coast.
After Ronald Reagan took office in 1981, his Interior Secretary, James Watt, announced plans to sell oil and gas rights off the California coast to the highest bidder. The plan failed due to widespread opposition. It also mobilized a bipartisan effort under Panetta to create the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, where oil drilling is forbidden. Today, there are 5 such sanctuaries along the coast.
Thank God we had broad support here in the community.
Since the Santa Barbara oil spill in 1969, California has prohibited new offshore oil and gas drilling in state waters. 3 miles off the coast in federal waters, President Biden just took action to ban any new offshore drilling. That said,
we will frack, 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 and drill, baby, drill.
President-elect Donald Trump has a plan to undo Biden's ban.
It'll be done immediately, and we will drill, baby, drill.
It's not clear how the president-elect can do this. He might need help from the courts or Congress. But as that battle shapes up, another one is already underway.
Unfortunately, the threat is not over.
Alex Katz is executive director of the Environmental Defense Center in Santa Barbara. He explained Biden's ban does not cover any existing lease. And in federal waters just north of Santa Barbara, 3 offshore oil platforms just cleared a major hurdle to come back online.
Now this company is trying to restart these platforms, which would significantly increase fossil fuel production in California, a state that's supposed to be leading the rest of the country on climate change. Heritage, harmony.
The platforms are part of what's called the Santa Ynez unit. In 2015, the unit was shut down after a badly corroded pipeline ruptured near Refugio Beach and caused the second most damaging oil spill in Santa Barbara history.
It killed, countless marine animals, including marine mammals, shut down businesses, shut down beaches, destroyed habitats all up and down the coast of Central and Southern California.
In 2020, a new company called Sable out of Texas took over the unit. In a statement, Sable says it continues to work closely with state regulatory agencies. It just received a waiver from the state fire marshal regarding its pipeline and says the unit will produce 1 million barrels of crude oil a month.
Drill, baby, drill.
As for Trump, he wants to accelerate drilling in federal waters and lands and speed up lease sales. But some environmentalists are counting on regulatory roadblocks.
This process of itself of opening up new oil drilling platforms is very lengthy, time-consuming.
Katie Thompson is executive director for Save Our Shores in Santa Cruz. She says every year California's coast, the tourism, fishing, and shipping contributes roughly $46 billion to the state's economy.
When we think about economy, we just need to shift our perspective away from fossil fuels and more forward-thinking, more thinking about the sustainable economy. And with a coastal state like California, that depends on the health of the coasts and the marine life.
As California dives into the second presidency of Donald Trump.
Well, the California Natural Resources Agency told us that many state agencies oversee Sable's attempt to restart pipelines, and they would need to approve a number of actions before the unit comes online. And you can watch Donald Trump's inauguration right here on CBS News Bay Area. Coverage starts at 6 a.m. on Monday. Well, still ahead, a neighborhood coffee shop is set to become the latest vacant storefront in San Francisco. What it's revealing about the city's post-pandemic challenges.
Diving into this weekend, it's Friday, we finally made it, but we head into this weekend with some moderate air quality widespread throughout the Bay. It doesn't matter whether you live in our inland spots or along the coast. We continue to keep a close eye on this as we head into early next week. And the other big weather story, well, it's kind of been obvious, but I mean, we don't have a drop of rain in sight for us. And the reason why that's the case, well, the jet stream's well north of us. High pressure's been kind of taking place, and that's allowing for a very dry setup throughout the next 6 to 10 days. Now that jet stream works up and then right back down into the Dakotas and Wyoming. saying that's the reason why they're dealing with wetter than normal conditions over there. But forget about that. Back here in the Bay, this is what we're going to be dealing with. A little bit of those clouds kind of holding on tight for us today. We'll see more sunshine in our inland areas as we head into Saturday and Sunday, and then we'll get a return of that morning fog from Monday and Tuesday of next week. It's almost like no sky July just wants to come a little bit early. Now we head over into the Bay, areas like San Francisco and across that beautiful Bay Bridge over into Oakland. We're also sitting in the 50s with these cloudy conditions, holding on tight to us just a little bit longer into this weekend, early next week, and then we'll start to see a midweek warm up and sunnier skies by Wednesday and Thursday.
Well, almost 5 years after the start of the pandemic, there are still a lot of empty storefronts around San Francisco, and a Starbucks that some neighbors refer to as the clubhouse is about to become one of them. Despite the looming closure, parts of the city may be getting back on the right track. Suji Nam has a snapshot of the city's pandemic recovery, which varies neighborhood by neighborhood.
A cappuccino, decaf soy.
That is Madeline Tremblay's go-to order at Starbucks on 99 Jackson Street, located right below her apartment, the Gateway in San Francisco. She's been coming here for more than a decade, but to Madeline, it's more than a coffee shop.
When I'm looking for board members and we want to interview them, then we always meet here.
It's become what neighbors nearby call their community clubhouse.
Have coffee and talk to whoever we're with, and it's really very pleasant. And it will be a shock to this neighborhood if we lose it.
That closure, however, is imminent. A Starbucks spokesperson sent us this statement, writing in part, quote, "We continually evaluate our business to ensure a healthy store portfolio. After careful consideration, we made the decision to close our store at 99 Jackson Street at lease end." Although this decades-old location is closing next month, researchers released new economic data showing that San Francisco's vacancies in the real estate market have seen a positive trend since 2019.
We had positive absorption of office space in San Francisco, so more move-ins than move-outs.
Robert Sammons, the regional director of research at Cushman & Wakefield, says the report shows a 34.2% vacancy rate in San Francisco, which compared to previous quarters is much lower since the pandemic.
Because of AI, they started the trend. They are much more in office as well.
According to the report, communities like 3rd Street Corridor, the Presidio, and Mission Bay had the lowest vacancy rates last quarter, compared to neighborhoods like Soma, Mid-Market, and Potrero Hill with one of the highest vacancies.
You have other submarkets that have these longer blocks, a little quieter, less retail activity, and they've struggled.
Back out here on Jackson Street, this Starbucks is slated to be vacant soon, with no word yet on what will fill that spot.
We would love to talk to them to see if, as a community, we can work on that two-way stream.
Meanwhile, these neighbors say they will hold onto the memories and friendships they've made along the way.
Well, Starbucks tells us all employees at the Jackson Street location have the option to transfer to one of the nearby stores. Well, coming up in our next half hour on CBS News Bay Area, while many people were told to evacuate during the fires in Southern California, some people never left. We check in with people who stayed put, fearing they wouldn't be able to come back. Plus, from empty offices to apartments and condos, could this makeover help revitalize the South Bay's downtown?
We're so used to having nobody in the building, I forgot what it's like.
When you look at the glut of the office markets, you can't let assets like this, just be vacant for years.
I'm Gianna Franco, and this is The Minute. Recalled Oakland Mayor Thao turned herself in this morning after being indicted by a federal grand jury on criminal charges. Today, the feds publicly accused her of bribery. They say she took part in a fraud scheme with her boyfriend and the owners of a recycling company to use the powers of government to benefit themselves. A ceasefire and hostage deal between Israel and Hamas appears to be back on track today. Israel's security cabinet voted to approve the deal. Now it goes to the full cabinet for a final vote. Hostages could be released as soon as Sunday. And in Southern California, some residents have been allowed to return to their homes for the first time since the wildfires broke out last week. And all red flag warnings have expired for the first time in 9 days. The fires have killed at least 27 people. Dozens are still missing. The Bay Area's only primetime newscast at 8 and 9 p.m. on Pix Plus 44 Cable 12.
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
As we head into this weekend's forecast, the winds are staying relatively light, starting to push in from offshore, and that's what's allowing for these cloudy conditions that we woke up to this morning. And we're going to continue to see that trend as we head into this weekend's forecast too. But not a drop of rain in sight for now. We're staying dry into this weekend. And one thing to mention, our air quality is continuing to stay in that moderate category as we forecast out into this weekend and early next week. So if you are sensitive to that pollutant matter, just be very careful out there. Limit your time outside and continue to hydrate. Continue to clear that throat. Now, as we head into the next couple days and into next week, we'll continue to see low rain chances in the forecast for us. Reason being, the jet stream is well north of us, all the way up into the Canadian border and then right back down into states like Wyoming and all the way over into the Dakotas. That's why they're experiencing wetter than normal conditions. But then back here locally, all the state of California, pretty much all the West Coast, dealing with drier than normal conditions for this time of year. And that takes us into the next 7 days. So you're going to notice that as we take a look at the next 7-day forecast, upper 50s and lower 60s are kind of flirting back and forth as we dive into our weekend and early next week. Late next week, we'll see a little bit more sunshine in the forecast, and we'll also get a nice warm up too, to the point where our friends down in the Santa Clara Valley could even see some 70s as early as next Wednesday and Thursday. But for the rest of our inland areas, we'll pretty much be topping off in the 60s with sunny conditions as well. We'll keep you updated on the forecast here in the Weather Center.
Well, the Supreme Court has cleared the way for a ban on TikTok in the United States, set to take effect on Sunday. However, that does not necessarily mean users will be blocked from accessing the app. Enforcement of the ban will fall to President-elect Trump, who takes office 1 day after the ban goes into law. Erica Brown is in Washington, D.C.
This Supreme Court ruling shared the government's concerns that this social media platform could pose risks to national security and the personal data of the more than 170 million American users. Supreme Court justices ruled a law labeling TikTok as a national security risk does not violate the First Amendment rights of its users. In the ruling, justices said TikTok has special characteristics, a foreign adversary's ability to leverage its control over the platform to collect vast amounts of personal data from 170 million U.S. users that justify this differential treatment.
The Supreme Court has rightly decided to uphold the requirement that TikTok be sold.
The law gave TikTok's parent company ByteDance until January 19th to sell off the social media site or be banned. TikTok users have flocked to the platform expressing outrage.
TikTok is getting banned officially.
Do you guys not realize the impact that this will have on the economy?
And to the U.S. government, I'm never forgiving you for this.
The app is unlikely to go dark on Sunday. Instead, the government is expected to order app stores to remove it, meaning new users will not be able to sign up. The action is viewed as a delay tactic to give the incoming Trump administration time to decide how to proceed.
When he comes into office, he needs to have his whole national security team, as well as his legal team, the Department of Justice, develop a strategy to ensure that our data is safe, our privacy is secure across all threats.
Trump filed a brief with the court in December, urging the justices to temporarily pause the law.
The irony in all this was Donald Trump was the first guy to point out this problem. Matter of fact, his administration had to convince me. They did a great job of convincing me and the overwhelming members of Congress.
The president-elect said he spoke with China's Xi Jinping today about a host of issues, including TikTok. TikTok CEO Shou Zishu has been invited to attend Trump's inauguration Monday.
Well, in the wake of this ban, TikTok's users have been flocking to RedNote, another popular social media platform that also is owned by a Chinese company, raising even more national security concerns. Well, the weather is providing some relief for firefighters in Southern California after more than a week of dangerous fire conditions. Residents in some areas have been allowed to return home, but more than 80,000 people are still under evacuation orders in the Palisades and Eaton fire zones. Before they can return, crews still and will have to survey the 12,000 homes and other structures that have been destroyed for any toxic materials like lead and asbestos. The Palisades fire burning along the coast is now 22% contained. The Eaton fire further inland is 55% contained. Together, they have burned about 58 square miles. Now, while many people wait to get back to their homes to see what's left of them, Kelsey Thorridge shows us how one man in Altadena is stuck inside the evacuation zone.
Bunch of flashlights, rechargeable AA's, headlights, lighters. We have this propane gas stove that's 3-burner. We take it outside.
Ruslan Abayev and his wife have been camping out inside their Altadena home since the Eaton fire tore through last week.
We're on this emotional roller coaster, you know, where we're still staying. We can't leave, but it's just up and down. And
Ruslan is just one of hundreds of people estimated to still be living in their homes inside the burn zone. We met him as he was making his way home after picking up some supplies at a nearby pop-up station within the zone. Kelsey.
Nice to meet you, Kelsey.
Nice to meet you. This
Jim.
is Jim.
Nice to meet you. Jim and Kelsey.
The entire perimeter of the burn zone in Altadena is being heavily guarded by police and National Guard. Ruslan says if he were to leave the zone, he wouldn't be allowed back in. Even as we were following him back up to his house, he got pulled over by CHP.
That was the first time that sheriff pulled over. I usually pull up to them, talk to them, or, you know. So they were asking what I was doing here. You know, this area is closed. I'm not supposed to be driving around here. I told them our house survived. We're still standing.
Ruslan says he and so many people whose homes survived are staying put not because they want to, but because they feel like they have to.
Because they're not letting people back in. I feel like the anxiety and stress would be stressed at the hotel room watching the news. At least here we're trying to do something.
Ruslan says he already saw one suspected looter drive up his road. He put out these signs to try and stop any more from coming.
Living in California, I've seen previous disasters and how people take matters into their own hands, especially in the areas where people loot. So I wanted to put up some signs trying to deter.
Ruslan says he and his wife are prepared to continue to camp out in their home as long as they need to, though he hopes officials will create a better system for letting homeowners in and out soon.
Well, it seems like they're starting to open up areas that are close to us. We're hoping by this weekend, so we're kind of, you know, trying to gauge it based on that.
He says until then, they're hunkering down and just doing their best to remember what they still have, not all that they've lost.
Just try to remember that we still have to survive and continue on, and that kind of gives us a little bit of strength every day.
And again, CBS is partnering with the Red Cross to raise money for those impacted by the Southern California wildfires. You can go to redcross.org/CBS to donate. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS, or you can text Red Cross to 90999 to make a $10 donation. Well, turning now to Solano County, where people in Vallejo's Crest neighborhood are calling for solutions. This is just days after a 4-year-old girl was seriously hurt when she was caught in the middle of a shootout. Police say she is in stable condition. The shooting happened last Sunday on Sawyer Street. Police are still searching for suspects. The city's new mayor, Andrea Source, says Vallejo leaders have to take action. Some say that should include things like violence intervention. And now to the South Bay. City leaders in San Jose are finalizing plans for a new safe parking site for people who live in their vehicles. The city council has approved a contract with We Hope, a nonprofit that provides homeless services. That group will manage the site on Berryessa Road when it opens next month. Their work will include case management, classes, sanitation services, and food. The site will also have security around the clock. It's the second site of its kind in San Jose and can hold up to 86 RVs. Well, it's no secret there is a housing shortage across the Bay Area, and we also know there is an abundant number of empty offices since the pandemic. In Silicon Valley, for example, the latest numbers show a vacancy rate of 22% in the third quarter of last year. That's according to commercial real estate company JLL. And like many cities in the Bay, San Jose is trying to convert some of those unused offices into housing. So far, though, only one conversion has been approved. But as Len Ramirez shows us, that could be about to change.
Well, this building has been vacant since the pandemic, but this new idea of putting housing into what was once an office building could be a game changer for this entire area.
Right on.
Glenn Lenhart and his wife Victoria own the freshly baked eatery in downtown San Jose. It's been serving up sandwiches in the same location for 38 years.
Put some peppers on the side, my friend.
The store sits on the ground floor of the 9-story office building at 152 North 3rd Street. And since the pandemic hit in 2020, it's been the building's only tenant.
We're so used to having nobody in the building, I forgot what it's like.
He may be in for a big reminder, but not in the way it used to be. The investment firm which owns the building recently filed papers with the city to give it a complete makeover and change it from offices to full residential.
Been blessed with great customers, a great following. Be nice to have somebody in the building.
When you look at the glut of the office market, you can't let assets like this, just be vacant for years.
Bob Stedler is not connected to the project, but is an independent land use consultant in San Jose. He has a keen eye for spotting trends, and this may be the next one to hit the city's downtown area.
It's just the smart move to not have to default on buildings, and it's the win-win-win. Lower your commercial vacancy, create residential, and it has the lowest carbon footprint for conversion of a residential unit.
The building, which was constructed in 1985 and incorporates an historic facade facing St. James Park, is owned by a group with connections to WeWork co-founder Adam Newman and his new real estate venture called Flow. If approved, it would be the second office-to-home conversion in the city's downtown, joining the historic Bank of Italy building at First and Santa Clara. The bid to convert to housing comes at a pivotal moment, with office vacancies at a 20-year high and efforts to remake St. James Park into a more family-friendly location.
The more eyes you have on the park, with people coming and going, makes the park safer.
As for Glenn and the sandwich shop, they're hopeful and a little concerned about what the changeover could mean for their business.
I've heard rumors that they want to turn it into apartments. They don't let us know. Every month I get an email, where's the rent? That's all I ask.
He says he has 7 years left on his current lease and plans to stay here at least that long.
Well, up next, if you plan on buying a home this year, we have some tips on what to look out for to make the home buying process a little easier.
It's just an awesome feeling. It's gratifying. It touches my heart.
It's my first time, but I'm also kind of scared.
Yeah, buddy.
This is just a way to make the world a better place.
It's a beautiful Friday forecast for us here in the Bay Area. A little bit cloudier compared to earlier this week and a little bit cooler too. We're sitting in the upper 50s today along the bay, and we'll be flirting back and forth with upper 50s and lower 60s as we head into this weekend and early next week. But as we head into our inland spots, we're not seeing too much of a change either. I mean, very similar conditions, a little bit cloudy at times, but not a drop of rain in sight. We're going to continue to see dry conditions throughout the next 7 days as the jet stream is well north of us. But on the bright side, we have beautiful weather heading into the weekend.
Well, if you're planning on buying a new home in 2025, there are steps you can take now to prepare for the opportunity. I spoke with a real estate agent who shared her insight on navigating the home buying process when it comes to affordability and securing insurance. Elaine Pitek understands that purchasing a home can be a daunting task.
The Bay Area is definitely a tough market with low inventory. There are fewer properties and a lot of multiple interested buyers.
With concerns about insurance and affordability, the process may seem out of reach for some. One significant concern for home buyers is insurance.
A lot of the insurance companies have moved out of California, although I've heard two insurance agents tell me recently that they're starting to come back in to California, so that's a little bit of a positive note.
Elaine advises taking proactive steps to protect yourself in case a sale falls through due to insurance issues.
Because we understand that some homes are not as insurable as others, there's actually a new box on your purchase agreement that has a contingency that you can get out of your contract, potentially get out of your contract if you can't find insurance on your home.
Understanding the requirements and making sure you're covered can save you from unexpected hurdles. For homeowners, keeping your property free of debris is essential, particularly if you live in a fire-prone area.
You want to keep your home well maintained, especially with all these wildfires that are going on. Insurance companies are looking for vegetation. So if you have trees that are hanging over your roof line, if your house is not maintained, like maybe a cracked driveway, you want to keep those things updated. Insurance companies now are doing drive-bys and using drones to make sure that your house is maintained.
Also, maintaining a safe and clean environment can not only protect your home, but also give you peace of mind. Elaine also highlighted the importance of being ready to act when the right opportunity arises. She suggests doing thorough research on financing and working with local lenders who are familiar with the Bay Area market.
Because every lender has different programs, different criteria that they lend with. So you might qualify for a lower rate with this person, but you might get a higher purchase power with another lender.
And what should you expect for the real estate market in 2025?
The biggest factor affecting home prices is typically interest rates. And most people feel that interest rates are going to stay in the high 6s to low 7s. There's not going to be a big drop this coming year. We are entering the spring market, so I believe there are going to be a lot more serious sellers thinking about downsizing, upgrading, job changes, and so that will bring more inventory on the market, which will help our buyers. Now, unfortunately, there are a couple wild cards. There's the potential tariffs or the threat of deportation, which might affect our economy this coming year.
While the market can be competitive here in the Bay Area, patience and preparation can be the key to finding the right home. Elaine also says that despite the potential hurdles home buyers might face, California remains a very active real estate market with plenty of inventory and price points. Well, coming up, they helped shelters in Los Angeles. Now they could use your help. The San Francisco SPCA tells us about their rescue mission following the devastating fires.
this weekend. It's Friday. We finally made it, but we head into this weekend with some moderate air quality widespread throughout the Bay. It doesn't matter whether you live in our inland spots or along the coast. We continue to keep a close eye on this as we head into early next week. And the other big weather story, well, it's kind of been obvious, but I mean, we don't have a drop of rain in sight for us. And the reason why that's the case, well, the jet stream's well north of us. High pressure's been kind of taking place, and that's allowing for a very dry setup throughout the next 6 to 10 days. Now that jet stream works up and then right back down into the Dakotas and Wyoming. That's the reason why they're dealing with wetter than normal conditions over there. But forget about that. Back here in the Bay, this is what we're going to be dealing with. A little bit of those clouds kind of holding on tight for us today. We'll see more sunshine in our inland areas as we head into Saturday and Sunday, and then we'll get a return of that morning fog from Monday and Tuesday of next week. It's almost like no sky July just wants to come a little bit early. Now we head over into the Bay, areas like San Francisco and across that beautiful Bay Bridge over into Oakland. We're also sitting in the 50s with these cloudy conditions, holding on tight to us just a little bit longer into this weekend, early next week, and then we'll start to see a midweek warm up and sunnier skies by Wednesday and Thursday.
Well, it's been such a busy time for the San Francisco SPCA. They went down to Southern California to help out the overcrowded shelters following the devastating fires. And just this week, they flew in more than 30 cats and dogs to the Bay Area. The SPCA joined meteorologist Jessica Birch today on our morning edition.
Let's talk about this little one. What's his name?
His name is Chowder.
Okay.
We think he's a 1-year-old Chihuahua mix.
Okay.
He did come from a shelter in Downey, which is in LA County. And he arrived a couple days ago. He's been taking this city by storm so far.
Awesome. Yeah, San Francisco welcomes him, and San Francisco wants to adopt him too. So it's been devastating to hear the news, of course, down in Los Angeles after the fires broke out. And so many families, hi little ones, so many families and animals were affected. So how can people help out, the animals in Los Angeles right now?
Yes, the community support is so important right now. We every adoption makes space for another animal, and so we are going to waive all of the adoption fees for all of the animals we took in from LA.
Oh, that's amazing. All right, so when we talk about the overcrowding in the Los Angeles shelters, how does this fit into the broader picture?
Yeah, California has been in an unprecedented shelter crisis since before the fires. Unfortunately, these devastating times just highlight what shelter systems face on the daily across the state and even across the nation.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. And another question for you too, are there plans for another rescue for us to go down and help out in Los Angeles?
We are going to keep in close touch with our partners down south. The situation is dynamic, and so we just want to assess and provide them the most effective help possible. We're going to wait and see what they say.
Okay, that's great news. And so, of course, we were talking about it earlier, offset. One thing important to note, you hear all the news of these animals going up to San Francisco in different cities, and it's important to note that these are the animals that were already in the shelters, and we're trying to make space in those shelters for the new dogs to come in, the ones that were displaced from the fires.
That's correct, yeah. These are not owned pets. These are animals that were already homeless in shelters.
Yeah.
We're making space for the partners down south to house their fire victims.
Absolutely. All right, well, Chowder just made his first appearance on TV, and we love him so very much. Eris, thanks so much for coming back. We love having you here.
I walk a lonely road, the only one that I have ever known.
Bay Area rock band Green Day is set to headline a concert to help Southern California recover from the devastating wildfires. The Fire Aid benefit concert will take place on January 30th. 18 other artists are also performing. Listen to this. It includes Billie Eilish, Lady Gaga, and Stevie Nicks. You'll be able to watch the concert on Paramount+. Well, the Grammys are still set for next month, but this year they will also raise funds for fire relief and honor first responders here in the Bay Area. The Recording Academy threw a party for our local Grammy nominees at the Claremont in Berkeley last night.
Yo, you're nominated. And we're like, what?
What? And then you called me on my day off and pretended it was like a work thing. And then we're like, we're Grammy nominated.
I am so excited to be here tonight. It's always such an honor to be nominated and to be nominated twice.
Well, the 2025 Grammy Awards airs on Sunday, February 2nd on KPIX and streaming on Paramount+. And again, CBS is partnering with the Red Cross to raise money for those impacted by the Southern California wildfires. You can go to redcross.org/CBS to donate. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS, or you can text Red Cross to 90999 to make a $10 donation. Well, thank you so much for streaming CBS News Bay Area. I'm Gianna Franco. We'll be right back with your first alert forecast and a look at your top stories.